I joined Xero summer of last year. I'm one of a small number of people, I think, in the industry, the part of the industry that I'm in, which is accounting software, to have been doing this for 21 years. Most of the people I started off with have either retired or died in that time. I started off when accounting software was an application that you had to have multiple floppy disks, and you'd insert them. If you wanted to go into the sales ledger, you'd insert the sales floppy, and then if you needed to go into the purchase ledger, you took out the sales floppy, and hopefully you filed away the right one from the purchase ledger, and it hadn't got corrupted, you hadn't spilled coffee on it, and the data was still there, and it wasn't your backup disk, and lots of things. And it was really hard work, but one of the things that really inspired me back then, I was very young when I started, obviously, is there was the effect that it had on businesses that were running on non-computer-based systems was magical. It really kind of transformed the way that they did things like payroll, the way that they got their statements out, and they could pay more quickly. And I kind of watched from, not quite the sidelines, but from within that industry over the last 21 years. I was a little troubled by the build-up that Manoj gave me, and that I'm this kind of SaaS convert, having been peddling on-premise software, and all of a sudden, just because my salary is paid by a cloud computing company, cloud computing is like I'm some kind of coin-operated, whatever you tell me to say, I'll say it. And I just wanted to try and debunk that myth. And I actually invented Twitter about 7 years ago. Seriously. And if you don't believe me, you can go to my blog. I've had a blog for about 10 years. So all the while I was sitting in a rather kind of modest surroundings and subdued environment of small business bookkeeping and accounting, I was managing director of Pegasus Software and spent a long time with that company. I believe me, I was thinking about the future and how cloud computing and web services are coming through. And to prove that point, I extracted this paragraph from a post I put on my blog back in 2003. Now, in those days, we didn't know about Twitter, it was blogging, but I think it pretty accurately describes what we're seeing in today's kind of social media, Twitter, everything connected in groups working together. And I wrote that in January 2003. So my credentials are not recent. I have been following developments in the industry for quite a while. Don't laugh too much down. That's true. Unfortunately, I was working for an accounting software company at the time, and had I thought that maybe we can take this notion a bit further forward, then I might have actually set up the company. But I didn't, and somebody else had the same idea a few years later. Xero, a bit of an advert for Xero, the company that I represent and manage in the UK. We're probably not a startup anymore. I think if you manage to get through the first couple of years, you cease to become a startup and you're a maturing business. We started almost 4 years ago in New Zealand. We're now globally located in America, in the UK, in Australia, obviously, in the home country of New Zealand. About a year ago, we had 4,000 customers, paying customers, using our online accounting and bookkeeping system. As of the end of last month, we now have more than 17,000. So we're growing really quickly, and our focus is really taking that area of small business bookkeeping and accounting, which I've been part of, and Sage and lots of companies have really established a big foothold in the UK, and using the power and the flexibility that's unleashed by doing things differently on the internet and on the cloud. I just have a couple of things in my allotted time of 15 minutes that I want to talk about my pet subject. But our mission is there are 4.7 million companies in the UK. It's a large number. The vast majority of them employ fewer than 50 people. Something like 2 million businesses are sole traders. Now, the incumbent market leader in our space is Sage. Everybody's heard of Sage. If you're running a small business, invariably, you'll probably go with Sage. But the reality is Sage accounts for about 500,000 customers. Now, that's a massive number. We have 17,000. We'd love to have 500,000. But 500,000 in the context of that addressable market in the UK says that Sage are missing something. There's a community of businesses that have resisted going to accounting software. They're still running with a spreadsheet. They're typing up their invoices in a word processor, and they're going to their accountants once a quarter with a shoebox of receipts and invoices and paperwork and bank statements and say, please sort that out for me. And we think that is the way that it is, and that's the way that things have developed. But there's a nobody's really challenged that. People have accepted that level of customer experience. And we think if we can enable people to do things differently, and I'm going to start with one capability in our product that we think really helps that. Just a small improvement in productivity. If we save a small business half an hour a day, if we enable them to get paid a week earlier than they would ordinarily be paid, if we enable them to service their customers more effectively, then that small incremental benefit that they get, actually when you scale up across the size of the small business community in the UK, it accounts for quite a lot. Over £1 billion of contribution to the, £1 trillion of contribution to the UK economy. And a 5% improvement there actually makes quite a big difference, particularly coming out of a recession. And so the foundations for our company came from that. Whether it's Sage, whether it's MYOB, whoever it is, it's just not good enough, and people need to come in and challenge that. And we think that cloud computing and running applications over the internet is sufficiently disruptive to that existing setup that people are really kind of going for. There's an interesting website. I just wanted to, one of my other kind of pet subjects is, and we hear this from established software companies, well, on-premise versus on the cloud. We still think that in the next 5 or 10 years that running software on a CD and pretty much your hard disk is still going to be a viable way for businesses to be competitive, and we don't think that, otherwise we wouldn't have been in business. There's a website called itjobswatch.co.uk, and that's a really interesting website. I encourage you to go and look at it. What they do is they scrape every job ad in IT in the UK on a daily basis, and they have been doing that since 2004. And you can look by product, by industry, by region, by discipline, all kinds of IT jobs. And I pulled off yesterday a couple of charts just to show this interesting change in the way that businesses, software businesses, technology businesses are looking to build out on the cloud. Cloud computing, I think this one is. So this is the number of IT jobs citing the phrase cloud computing in them. At the moment, still only represents barely 2% of all jobs. Lots of jobs are boring, SAP consulting jobs. But what's most notable is when it started was May 2008, and the incline there. There's another one. This is for web services, and as you can see, web services, we've been talking about that for quite a bit longer. But gradually, web services now account for getting over 12% of all jobs advertised in IT. And that's not just development jobs, that's consulting jobs, that's training jobs, everything account for web services. And then finally, I picked two Microsoft development languages, Visual Basic 6, which was the last component-based version of Microsoft Visual Basic, which is what software companies used to build applications in, and C#, which is the post-2000 .NET, Visual Studio.NET environment that software companies now use to build applications for the web and web services-rich applications. And you can see quite a big divergence there, where that classic way of developing on-premise software is now becoming really not sought after in terms of skills. And C# jobs now account for more than 30%. Almost a third of all IT jobs, and we're talking tens of thousands of jobs being advertised on a monthly basis. And I can say that I think on-premise software is dead, and I come from an on-premise background. But the love of IT and the love of technology that I had when it was floppy disks, I have to say I've recaptured working with online and cloud computing. I think the period from 2000 to 2008, 2009 was really boring in our industry. There hasn't been a lot of innovation. There was a big kind of binge for Y2K.